Welcome back to the KIKAO taking place here in Kigali, Republic of Rwanda. If Africa had adopted and used technology and innovation in agriculture, then we would be able to produce enough food for our people. What does it mean here, bringing in technology and innovation?
We actually have got lessons about that. When fertilizer was introduced decades back, the message, the narrative, there was that nobody will starve ever again. We have had several instances where technology is introduced and you say, this is the end of the problem. Mechanization, it was the same thing. Climate smart agriculture, it was the same thing. This is what we came up also in the national dialogue last year. We went to 48, 49 countries in the United Nations-led food systems national dialogues. The countries were coming up to say, is this another list of priorities of what we need to do? We have several. We have Malabo, CAADP Malabo. We have the SDG. We have Agenda 2023. So what will another list do? Many times, we have ventured for technical solutions, which are important, but they are not the whole. They are not even sometimes the main issue. Because if it was just science, technology, and innovation, and you put it there, and the solution is there, we would not be sitting here. We need to come back to why are these technologies, innovations, some of them working very well in some circumstances, have not caught wildfire, gone like wildfire.
Why are we still lagging behind? Why Africa cannot have the same performance as agriculture in other countries?
That comparative lens that you brought in has driven the picture quite clear that African agriculture, you look, has stagnated like for decades, with productivity per hectare averaging just 1.1, 1.5 if you're doing very well. And if you if you compare that with other developing regions of the world, then you see areas like Southeast Asia that were more or less having the same indicators like us, having made quantum leaps going upwards with the time. They must have done something to their agriculture. They must have adopted some innovations that transformed their agriculture. And that doesn't answer the question, it just shows how different we are. Riding on that bold political step of transformation, I think the other twin element that we need to bring in is then to say with the political direction going this way, to match that, we need to then consciously go out to adopt agricultural productivity enhancement technologies. And those in themselves also call for an enabling environment, because new innovations, people who have studied innovations have talked about enemies of innovation. Sometimes new innovations, like a mobile phone, when it was coming on board, there are people who resisted it. We know how mobile telephony has transformed the world. So I think that we need a political enabling environment that could help us catalyze the adoption of productivity-enhancing technologies.
Doesn't it call for a certain level of prioritization of which technology? Because there is a huge range of technologies that were developed to address many different issues.
Recently, the African Union had to reform. President Kagame led the process for the reform of the African Union. And among the reasons were two factors. One was about being able to deliver results as a continent. And number two was about how do you get domestic resources to back up that development economic agenda of the continent instead of depending on the development aid. And when you look at that, and coming back to your question, is that the continent has recognized that there was real issues that needs to be addressed in terms of delivering results and transformative results as at that. And one of them was to begin with the issue of leadership. We need champions. We need visionary individuals that are able to create a critical mass of interest and commitment to drive the process. Then you have to cultivate the citizenry interest and participation. Now, the issue is that the citizens, the populations, have to recognize in that vision of the leaders their own ambitions. This is when you talk about the phone. They have not adopted the phone because of somebody there, but they have recognized what they can do with it.
It meets their needs.
It meets their needs. So, and that needs to come up because it's the people. The people have to be part of the solution. And it's not doing it for them. They would do it for themselves insofar as we can recognize that and remain with enabling those factors that allows them to deliver the solution. When you combine these two, then you are going to identify what are the real on-the-ground challenges, including opportunities. When you come to infrastructure, you come to information, including data. You come to policies that are either sometimes you find with so many, sometimes we end up not lack of them, but conflicting policies. So all those factors begin to fall in place.
Yes.
Yeah? And that is where action, results, and transformation will happen.
Can happen.
Yeah.
Now, how do you prioritize, or what would be the priority of the African continent as far as agriculture is concerned, and with the aim of attaining food security?
I think that many studies have been done before. And even before making maybe this matter rather complex, if somebody talked about the threat of climate change manifesting itself in the form of weather variability, I think that does not need any lecture. When we were growing up, we used to think that maybe that's just a theory. But we see it. We see frequent and prolonged droughts disrupting agricultural production and so on and so forth. And even if a country were just to cherry pick and say, for the next 10 years, we as country X in Africa, we are going to prioritize climate change, followed by perhaps animal production or animal industry, agro-processing. In other words, trying to do our agriculture with value addition in mind rather than just generating raw material. And focused on that as flagship pilot examples, you would then take stock at the end of that time and show that the transformation we have been talking about is not alien, it takes this kind of form. And there are technologies that can bring about climate-smart solutions in crop production.
I will invite you to a break, and after the break, why then, if we know the solution and we know the challenges, why we don't address them?